Hey book lovers, Victoria here and you're watching My Books Me as promised in my September book haul. I'll link to that below if you have not seen it. Today I'm here to talk about the fact that, as you can tell by the title, I wrote a freaking book and it is a thing that people now own and people have read, and it is crazy. So, as I said, if you saw my September book haul, you'll already know what this book is. It is called 100 Shows, 104 Years, A History of the Finley A&P Association. The Finley Show Society held its 100th show this year at the beginning of September, and as part of the celebrations, I wrote this. It is a local non-fiction history book, and it's got a lot of writing in it, and newspaper articles, and photos, and lists, and awesomeness. It's just amazing. Where do I even begin to start talking about this? So this was so fun to write, I just have to say. This is right up my alley as someone who is studying a Bachelor of Arts majoring in history and hopes to write history stuff. Like, I've had experience researching things and writing like essays. So it was easy to kind of tone it back, to still do the research but then tone it back for like a general audience. It was nice to actually write something that I knew didn't have to sound overly smart for university markers. So I think before I get into actually talking about this, I'm going to insert the footage from when we launched the book. Now, fun fact, the book was actually meant to arrive the week later, so at the dinner, that was just a celebration dinner for everything, we were just going to briefly mention the book. I had a poster that had the cover on it because no one had actually seen the cover up until that point, except for me, my mum, and the printers. So no one had actually seen it. But that afternoon, literally 3 o'clock that afternoon, when we were in the midst of setting up the hall, when we were in the midst of setting up the room for the dinner, it arrived. It was so exciting to actually see a physical copy of this and feel it in my hands, and just to see all the boxes that were filled with these books. It was absolutely crazy. So we were like, okay, we can launch it at this dinner, and I was like, crap, I haven't prepared anything. And people were like, yeah, okay, you can do it, be right. And I was like, I knew what I kind of should say, but I didn't really also know what to say. And that night, because obviously we were organizing it, so we got there a little bit earlier, the guy who was the MC was like, okay, you can, like, we'll make it work. And I was actually talking to his wife, who was asking me questions about the book, and he turned to me and was like, okay, look, I'll ask you questions about it and you can answer it. And I thought, yes, that is good. I mean, I sort of knew what questions he'd ask. He sort of said, you know, like, what was it involved, how long it took, sort of stuff like that. So I then had, even though I still had to like think of what I was going to answer the questions with, at least then it was sort of more prompting me rather than me trying to think of something or write something from scratch. So I'm going to insert that now. I was definitely a little bit nervous. I mean, it was a room of 100 people. I've definitely spoken to bigger rooms than that before, but it was also people that either have known me my entire life, who I've known my entire life, people who I knew would actually be reading this book, people who have known that I've been working on it. Like, it was very nerve-wracking, so enjoy.
I'd like to now take the opportunity. What you're seeing up on the screen is some of the work that one of our members, Victoria Kennedy, has done to put together a presentation of all the past photos and videos of the old shows. So take an opportunity tonight to watch those as they go through. There's some really interesting stuff, and I'm sure you may even see yourself or someone you know very well feature up there at various times through the night. But what I'd like to do now is call Victoria Kennedy up. Victoria's done a huge amount of work compiling our history, and it's an exciting time because there was an opportunity we saw to put that history together, and she's done that in a book form. We didn't expect the book to be here tonight. That's one of the few things that runs ahead of schedule. The book arrived a little ahead of schedule, so we're going to take the opportunity to launch the book tonight. So what I was hoping to do, if I can handle the technology, is just ask Victoria a couple of questions about how she managed to put the work that went in, don't shake, how she went about putting the book together. Whereabouts did you find most of the information that you've put in this book so far, Victoria?
Well, it was all in newspaper articles mainly, plus minute books, so a lot of tracking down of 104 years worth of newspaper articles. I think I have most of them, but there's probably some out there that we didn't manage to find. Otherwise, just whatever was in the newspaper is in this book now.
Was there anything in there that surprised you in particular?
I don't really know, not really. I'm not quite sure. Like, after reading it a number of times, nothing really sounds surprising, but yeah.
That's good. I mean, it is hard to encapsulate 100 years of history in a book, and I'm hoping that people will take the opportunity to get a copy of it at some point. How long did it take you to put it together, Victoria?
Probably the past 5 months have involved me reading through all those newspaper articles, reading through all the minute books, which was hard because I couldn't read most of the writing. I took heaps of notes and then had to make all that make sense and into a book. So yeah, 5 months of working really hard on this.
No, that's great. And I think it's just a great opportunity to officially launch the book tonight. And again, thank you very much for all your efforts in putting it together. We all contribute a lot to shows, and it's nice to have that recognised in a form like that goes down in history. And so thank you again very much for that. Would you like to officially...
Yeah, I hope you guys will enjoy it and read it. I'm pretty sure most people in this room have mentioned it somewhere, whether it be a photo, a caption, or maybe even in the text. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it if you get it.
Okay, thank you.
So as I said in that, I read a ton of newspaper articles for this, a ton of minute books, and a couple of local history books as well that had mentioned the show. I ended up taking dot notes for everything I read, and then I was left with, at the end, with all of this writing that I had to just turn into text that people could actually read. So I feel like in that sense, writing this was relatively easy. Definitely the research part was the hardest part and the longest part to do. Writing it, I felt like it was relatively easy because I already had it all written down. I just had to make it work in... I already had everything written down. I just had to make it so that anyone could read it, that it was more than just dot points. And having already written some fictional stuff, I definitely can say it's easier because you have the information that you know you need to write, and you're not creating stories from scratch. You're not creating characters and worlds from scratch, which obviously you do with fictional work. So I definitely got stuck in some places, but I mean, it was easy to overcome because I knew what I wanted to write. I knew the style that I was writing in, and I knew what I was talking about at each stage. I think the longest part of actually the writing process was putting the pictures in where they were meant to go. There are so many pictures in here. There are definitely more than I thought there was going to be because I didn't realize how many pictures we had from newspaper articles. Overall, this has been an amazing experience. I definitely did not think that I would write a non-fiction local history book by the time I was 21. This is something that I've definitely thought I should, not necessarily this book in general, but like writing non-fiction history stuff is definitely something that I want to do in the future. I also just want to generally write fiction. You know, I thought I could see that happening in the future, but I never thought that I would do something like this by the time I was 21. That would be for the people, as I said, who've known me, who I know, people in my community who I see regularly, and I think that just made it all the more special and personal, the fact that it's a very niche group of people who are going to be getting this book, who this book is aimed at. And I have received so much feedback, so many compliments. It's crazy. I know people it's really weird to receive compliments. It's a good thing, but it's also just really weird because you don't necessarily like being the center of attention, and you don't really know how to reciprocate, like, other than saying thanks. And it gets kind of tiring when, or tiring, that sounds weird, but you know, when you're getting a lot of it in a short space of time, it's really just weird and overwhelming, but crazy. As I said, an amazing experience. I can't believe I've done it. And I'm definitely glad that I have essentially added something to my local community that is going to be there for years to come. The community only has one other local history book, which is amazing, but at this point it's very dated, and I personally did not like the way it was written. I didn't really like the writing style, but like, this is something else to add to it, and it was just amazing. There are so many awesome stories that I learned through this, I've essentially become a walking encyclopedia for everything about the show. It's been crazy. People who are a lot older than me have been talking about memories that like things that they remember, and it's weird I can say yes, that's true, that's what I've read, and I'm 21. It's been amazing, and yeah, I just really wanted to share with you guys. I'd shared some stuff on Twitter and Instagram, and I know a lot of people saw them, and it's just been a big part of the past 3, 4, 5, 6 months or something, I don't really know, of my life that I've had to balance between everything else that I've been doing. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about anything to do with this book, then feel free to ask them in the comments or on Instagram or Twitter or wherever. I'll be happy to answer them. I hope that I talked about what I wanted to talk about in this video. It's kind of just a very spur of the moment thing, and I'm just not really I didn't really write down dot points that I wanted to cover. But yeah. So that is it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. So that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye!